Why do you take pictures of people?
I think there's like something special about like connecting with people in a way that allows them to open up in a way they never opened up before. I had a lot of people tell me that my photos that I took of them were like different than anybody else's. Like they've just been they've never seen themselves in that way. And I don't know, there's something special about that, and that's kind of like what I strive to do. So I think it's just really to bring people joy. Like the joy I bring people is really why I take photos.
Yeah, I noticed like from a younger age, I like taking photos too. Of course, not at like an articulate level, but just kind of like just taking them for people like playing basketball and stuff.
Yeah,
Because it's kind of like just a very self-serving thing. Like they
yeah,
feel good, and I feel good. Like
yeah.
now it's like I get to practice a craft. Like I get to practice this, and you like this product.
Mm-hmm.
How is it learning to get people to be comfortable in front of a camera?
I think learning how to be comfortable in front of a camera really comes. It's so much about the photographer. So what I do when people start shooting with me, I usually try to like talk to them before I actually start shooting because some people hire me through Instagram. We meet somewhere. I've never met you before. I'm like, hey, and then I just start taking pictures. There's something really like it's kind of awkward. You know what I mean? There's no like introduction.
Sounds
Sort
like
of.
a drug deal.
Yeah, it's like you don't want to like rush into it. So while I'm getting my camera set up, I'll usually ask the person a couple of not a couple of photos. I'll ask the person a couple of questions, like personal questions. Not like really personal, obviously, but you know, I'll be like, "Oh, where are you from? Are you native to Arizona? You know, do you have any brothers or sisters? Stuff like that." And they just get talking, and that helps them relax a little bit, and it helps them feel more at home. And it really shows in the photos because you start shooting somebody and they feel awkward. It really shows in the pictures. Even if they're smiling, it's like that fake smile. And
Are you ever in that position where you have to ask them to adjust because they're just not doing it right, and then they get irritated?
no, I don't really get people irritated. I'll usually try to just break out of whatever we're doing. So if I'm doing something and the person's like really not doing what I want, I'll be like, hey, let's just go over here. I'll try to just like shift gears because you don't want to like kind of start butting heads with the person you're taking pictures with.
Mm-hmm.
I had a guy a couple years ago. I was taking photos of this couple, and this guy, he was kind of subconscious about his hair. He's an older guy. He's losing his hair. He has a like baseball cap on,
Mm-hmm.
and he's like trying to take photos where he's kissing this lady, and there's like a shadow on his face, a shadow on her face, and I was like, "Hey, sir, could you take off your hat?" And he took it off, and then a couple minutes later, he put the hat back on, and I had to like keep on asking him, and it kind of just like you don't really you're not able to get into a flow. You know what I mean? As a photographer or as a couple, I think it's very much like when I take my best photos, it's like me and the model or me and the couple are kind of vibing and we're getting into a groove. But when you have somebody who's kind of like butting heads with you or not really being cooperative, that makes it way harder. So I think trying to mitigate those things before it happens, like for that situation, the lady that hired me, she got mad at him. I didn't really have to like say anything else to him. You know what I mean? She got mad at him, so I didn't really have to jump in. But in most situations like that, I wouldn't be like, "You're gonna just keep putting your fucking hat back on." You know what I mean? Rather than that, I'd be like, "Hey, sir, can we just keep your hat off for the next 30 minutes?" That way, it's like, you know what I mean? I would ask him something like that, and then move on from it rather than like trying to do something that's gonna butt heads.
I feel like that takes a lot of selflessness because like kind of just like a lesson like know your ego.
Yeah.
Because I feel like guys we're sarcastic all the time.
Yeah.
So sometimes if a guy like I was taking pictures for a baby shower, I was like, hey Ryan, if you could act like you want to be here, that'd be great. Like, and I noticed that just like that really lightens up the mood.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, cracking jokes is always great. I think that's like I'll sometimes just tell like the stupidest jokes, especially people will straight up tell you, "Oh, I've never done a photo shoot like this before," you know, and I'm like, "Oh, okay. Well, it's not hard if you just have fun with it and don't really think about taking photos. Like we're gonna get a lot of good photos, you know. That I'll try to say something like that, and they're like, "Oh, okay." And some people have been in other situations where they have photographers who actually get mad at them because they're not doing exactly what they want. And that's never going to get you good photos at the end. You know what I mean?
Do you, because everything I do, my past work, it's cringe to me. Like I find it and I'm never satisfied. And I think that goes as you raise your awareness of how good it could be. Do you think there's like, you have a baseline plateau where all your pictures will be like at least decent, like they age, where if you see them in 10 years, you're like, all right, this is good, or do you think also poorly of your old work?
When I look at my old work, I mostly analyze it and learn from it. There's some cringeworthy photos indeed, but I think that LeBron James didn't just pick up a basketball and start dunking and crossing people up. Like, he had some cringy basketball plays and some bad crossovers he tried to do. You know what I mean? So it's the same as anybody who's trying to perfect their craft. When you start, you're not going to be that good. But I think the best thing to do is to look at your old work as like a stepping stone. I will sometimes post photos on my Instagram from 2 or 3 years ago because I'll look at it and I'll be like, I didn't even want to edit this photo 2 years ago because I hated it, but I didn't delete it. And now in 2021 or 2022, I'm like, oh shit, that's a dope ass photo I took back then.
Well, that's because that was the more the aspect I was thinking, because if LeBron James sees himself in 2005 and it's 2020, he's like, that's still a dope ass dunk.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like it's
no,
bad.
but it's different when you're still brand new. You know what I mean? When he was like in
Like,
middle school, he wasn't there yet. He might have been like, oh, that was a dope play, but
he was
obviously,
windmilling.
No. But LeBron James is like a freak of nature. But just going back to photography for real, like I do see a lot of my old stuff where sometimes I'll come across an old photo and I'll just delete it on the spot. It'll be like in my Google Drive or maybe in my Lightroom. I'm like, that's a horrible photo. Other photos, I literally will take and I'll drag into a subfolder called like course material or like learn from this or like lessons or something. And the reason why is because I'll take a photo, I'll look at it, and immediately I'm like, I know what I would do differently now if I was to take this photo today. So I think like your old photos should definitely be just a learning experience. But I do have some very cringeworthy photos from my past that. But I think it's all part of becoming who I am. I have some photo shoots I did some years back where I didn't want to send the model any of the photos. And it wasn't her fault. I just like didn't feel like I really got any good photos and I wasn't confident in my work. And
I do that sometimes too. I just take some photos like dark as hell. No.
Yeah, and
how long have you been doing it though?
Since 2015.
Okay, so about almost at that decade mark. That's coming up, but the question is like, how do you get to that point, especially starting something? You started in your 20s, correct?
Yeah.
So where you don't have that confidence, where you've been doing it since you were just like a wee lad. Like, how is it like going over imposter syndrome or like being confident to charge what you charge?
I think what it has to do with is really creating a body of work that truly represents all you can do. So what I noticed is that when I started getting hired a lot, I started getting all of my gigs from models that I shot for free. And they would hit me up, or their friend would hit me up and be like, hey, Victoria gave me your number. Like, she said you're a really good photographer. I want photos of me and my man. And then like I started getting gigs like that. And what I realized is that my paid clients were coming from lasting impressions I left on previous customers. So like, there's 1,000 people that most people can hire to take photos, but why did they pick you? There's something special about you. So you get hired for certain shoots, and it's like people pick you. They can pick anybody else, but it's like your personality and everything. So what I realized is that like my personality and the lasting impression that I leave on people is what got me hired. I had one guy in particular who he was, I don't really know exactly what his title was, but he's basically working on this technology that allowed you to like separate sediment from water and kind of like create fresh water again.
Oh.
And he messaged me one day, and it was a text message. He was like, hey, you don't know me. You took photos of my wife 7 months ago, and she said that you were just one of the most kind people that she's ever met, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, she doesn't really talk about people in that way, so I wanted to work with you, blah, 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 And when I got that, he was like, could you please give me a call? And I thought that was so cool because I got hired to do this, I don't know how to explain it. It was like there's a photo shoot for, you know what aerial arts are? The girls, like, you heard of the silks where girls are like on those. So it was a couple girls that were on the silks, and then there's one pole dancer. And they wanted me to, like, we went to this guy's house, and there was like, I had to bring my little shitty light setup. And we took all these photos with them on the silks and stuff. And it was just me. I was really new to photography, but I did it. I just got the opportunity. I did it. I made like $600 that day. Each girl I charged like $80, and there was like however many girls.
Can you say how far in were you, and what is the shitty equipment?
I had like two like $30 soft boxes, and I had maybe a flash, like a hot shoe flash, but it just wasn't really efficient. Like it took me a long time to get the lighting the way that I think it should have looked. And if I was using something now, like if I was using like a strobe, it would have been way easy. But the fact that I had two soft boxes, the lighting inside the house wasn't that good, and I just didn't have a lot of bright light in order to light the subject for my camera to focus on it. And the camera I was using, my D3300, is just like a beginner level camera, so it's not that good in low light. So I got photos of those girls. I think the photos came out decent, but definitely not my best work. But all the girls liked the photos a lot. You know what I mean?
How often have you ran into the situation where, because I've been told like, hey, if you want to start doing weddings, you're gonna have to get a mirrorless to whatever to be a secondhand shooter for at least this XYZ person. What do you think of it? Like, does the client notice or care, or really do they just care about the end product?
I think the client is gonna care about the end product for sure. I again use my $400 camera for most of my work, and I've gotten paid like $1,000 for a shoot that I used my $400 camera for. The client literally doesn't care at all what you're using. Like I've used my cell phone for paid gigs too, and it's like my phone has a 4K camera, and my $400 camera only shoots at 1080p. So I'll get clips for people with my 4K camera phone, and they don't care because my end product looks professional. I have had situations before where I was using my phone for some video, and the person was like, hey, could you get some footage on your camera? Like they wanted me to use my camera instead. But like they were still satisfied with the end result. I still use the clips I got from my phone. But there are some situations where, like if you're doing a wedding and somebody hired you for a wedding and you're standing up there with your phone taking video, people might be like, shouldn't you be using your camera for this? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I definitely feel like it brings that sense of like seriousness to the craft. Because I know when I first started, I was like, I want to get into this, and I was like, you think I was trying to use my iPhone to record people's sets, and now just edit them together. It's like I feel like if you're trying to charge like anything, you just want to be
and it's just a matter of like investing in yourself. It's like you're not going to want to hire like a guy to do your yard if all he has is a rake. He's like, you're supposed to landscape your whole yard. You're like, what are you going to dig with? What are you going to do this with? What are you going to do that with? You just have a fucking rake. You know what I mean? You can do part of it, of course, but you don't have all the tools that I think are necessary. But you can always prove those people wrong, but I do think there's some people who might care about that stuff. But for me, I think that there's clients out there that are high value clients, and there's clients that are low value clients. And I feel like the lower value clients are going to be the ones that are usually more...
Because they're hesitant about their investment. Like they want to see like if I went to like a top notch like ramen noodle place, and then I go there and they're just using ramen noodles for like 50 cents. I'm like, fuck you. Yeah. So I think it goes back. It really depends on the type of work you're doing as well. Like I have some friends who live in Los Angeles. In November, I went there and I recorded video clips for them for like a music video. And I used my iPhone 13 for like almost all of the clips. And like I was showing them, I was using the cinematic mode, and it takes really, really good quality stuff. And at one point I was like, yeah, I want to get some camera clips on my cameras too. Like, don't worry guys. And my friend was like, I love the way it looks on your phone. You know what I mean? Because he's like, that's real. It looks good. It's capturing exactly the type of movement we need. And it's like, that's a little different because he's somebody I know. But if I created those same clips and he didn't know it was on my phone, he wouldn't care because he likes the way it looks. Why do you go to your iPhone? Is it because it's easier just to transfer, or is it like, well, because I try to think about like what situation would I want to use my iPhone versus what situation would I rather use the camera? How do you like differentiate?
So for me, it's just a matter of my equipment. So right now, I don't have a professional camera that shoots 4K. And the camera on the iPhone 13 is really, really good. It's actually higher quality than my professional cameras I have. So for that reason, when I'm out doing a video, every time since I've had this phone, even if I'm shooting on my cameras, I'll get some clips on my phone as well, just to be like, oh, maybe I can add this in there, or maybe these might end up being better in my phone. So I think it's just like, for me, it's just using an extra tool. You know what I mean? If you have like an extra money and you go to the store, you're like, oh, maybe I can use extra money on this. But if you don't have that money, you don't even think about it. You know what I mean? So it's just kind of like you have an extra tool in your pocket at all times, and it's like you can use it, and it's kind of experimental. Some of the coolest shit I've captured has come from like just playing around with like a phone clip, and I'm like moving it in a weird way, and end up getting this really cool footage where my friend happened to like swing this way. Like I got a video of my friend playing the drums, and like this, I'm rotating the camera in circles and stuff, and it's like, I think it looks cool because of the movement, but like with my professional camera, I probably wouldn't have been able to like rotate it the same way because it's like so clunky. And
I see what you
know
mean.
what I mean? So,
I see people. I seen this camera guy. He goes up to strangers and he'll make like cool mixtapes. And then he says, he comes up to them with the camera and then he shoots it on his iPhone. So I guess there's like legitimacy to that.
Yeah,
for sure. Kind of taking a quick pivot. At the time we're recording this, you are engaged, correct?
Mm-hmm.
How is it working the dynamic of you're because it's hard to do anything like when you're so invested into the craft and also having a relationship. You know, I think somebody's told me girls think that's cool for the first like few months, and then they get tired, like, why the hell are you always gone?
Yeah. So I've actually had a pretty cool experience with my photography and my fiance. She's very pretty, and I've actually gotten her into modeling. And in the beginning of our relationship, she wasn't as happy about me going and shooting beautiful women all the time. You know what I mean? She's like, you're going out and spending time with these women, but like you're not even getting paid for it. Like you could be spending that time with me. You know what I mean?
I could just hear that from the field. Like you're just hanging out with strippers. Like.
Yeah. So at first, like she didn't really get it. Like she thought that like I was just out just spending time with these girls, and I wasn't really getting anything out of it. And then a couple things started to happen. First of all, I started to get like paid gigs from these free shoots I was doing. And I'd be like, hey, look, I just remember that girl I shot for free? Like, she just hit me up and her friends need like couple photos. And like, it's a paid shoot. And she was like, oh shit, you know what I mean? So I started showing her that. And then I just got her involved. I was like, you know, let me take some photos of you. Like, and then I started a community called the Creator Click out here. It's a community of photographers, models. We do like meetups and stuff for new artists. And I started getting her to be a part of that community. I'm like, hey, come to this meetup that I'm throwing. And then she came to it and she saw that like there was other photographers there were other models. She saw the way I interacted with the models. And then she started becoming a lot more comfortable. Realized that I wasn't out just like trying to just hang out with girls for no reason. I was actually out there to create, and that it's actually kind of fun to be in that space. So when she came out, then she got into it. She started doing her own photo shoots with other photographers and stuff. So I think just like really helping her understand my world really changed everything. But I do think that there's a lot of people who go through that in the beginning of the relationship where they're like, oh, you're always gone, you're always this. Something that happened some months back too, there's a brand called Body Zone, and I do a lot of their photo shoots when they have like a new line that comes out, and they gave me like a box of like lingerie, and they were like, shoot your fiance in this, and she gets to keep all of it, and it's like a box of like 100 and something, articles of clothing, but she's literally like my muse right there. I'm getting paid for this gig. She gets to keep all the gear. And now we're on this website for this brand. So I thought that was cool.
You spoke of having like the Creator Click community. How'd you start that?
So when I was still in Los Angeles, when I first started photography, I got a point and shoot camera back in 2015. It was about $100, a little Nikon. It was not a good camera, but I started going to these photo meetups. They were every Tuesday or Wednesday. It was this group called the Thanks for the Invite, LA. That was their name. And it was really cool. So every single week, there would be a bunch of photographers and models who would go to a spot they disclosed on the flyer downtown. We'd show up there. It was always at night. And there would be like maybe 50, 60 photographers. And then like the models, there's usually a lot less models, but there may be like 50 photographers and maybe like 10 models. So some of the time, like there'd be all these photographers like kind of crowding the models and stuff. But other times you kind of like got to go up to the model and be like, hey, can I get a couple photos of you over here? And I would get like my own unique photos of the model. That right there was really, really what gave me the confidence to kind of like start doing my own shoots and stuff. So when I moved to Arizona and I didn't know anybody, I kind of thought about that community and I was like, I wish there was something out here that was similar to what I started with, because that really helped me get to learn about the models in my area. It got me to know other photographers who we started bouncing ideas. They started teaching me stuff. So I was like, let me just create something similar in Phoenix. So I got here and I created, I think the same year I got here in December 2016, and I think like before Christmas, I ended up creating this page. It's called the CreatorClick_AZ. And what I did was, I was like, how am I going to grow this page with local artists? Like, I only want local people to be in this. Other people can follow us, of course, but I really want to build a community of local artists. So what I started doing was I started looking at local photographers by typing in Arizona photographer, Arizona model, and finding photos I liked, and then I would feature them on my CreatorClick page, and I would tag the photographer, tag the model, say, hey, congratulations, Jeffrey, you took this outstanding photo of model Monica, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing, because a lot of photographers, at least with me, I just want like recognition sometimes. I just want to say like, nice.
Yeah, exactly. So like I recognize that. Like, I know when I got featured on any like feature page, I always felt so great. So I was like, I can make people feel good, and I can build a community out here, and I can get people interested in the CreatorClick. So I just started like featuring a bunch of people, and then I tried to throw my first meetup in like, it might have been in January. So I started in December of 2016. Started my page, and then I maybe have like 50 followers or something. And then in January, I tried to throw a meetup, which is like, hey, models and photographers, come out to my CreatorClick meet. And then like during that meetup, I think my fiance might have came, and then there was like a photographer who came with his like girlfriend, and then like one cosplay girl. So it was like,
oh, the cosplay girl was all you need.
Yeah, it was like me and like another photographer, and then my fiance, and then like, you know what I mean? So it was a very small meetup, not like, so I was like, okay, that didn't turn out the way I wanted, but it taught me something. First of all, like, somebody saw that flyer and was like, this sounds cool. You know what I mean? And they came out and they supported it. I was like, that's fucking dope. But the other thing it taught me is that like, I need to make these events like more known.
How is it assembling a community as far as one that will follow through? Like, how'd you get to that point?
Yeah, so once I threw a few meetups, I had a couple that ended up being like kind of bigger than that, where 20 people, 30 people showed up, and I was like, oh, this is actually something. But what I realized is that I didn't really have an easy way to notify everybody. So if you post something on your story, like, I can post something on my story today. You might see it, you might not see it. Some people never look at stories. Some people never scroll through the feed. So it's like, if I post something on my feed, and it's, hey, I'm having a photo meet tomorrow, and you don't see it, and I post something on my story, you also don't see that, you're not going to come. So I started thinking about how I can, like, you know, fix that issue, and I thought, okay, what if I created like a big group chat that had like all the photographers, models, hairstylists, and everybody that I've invited, or that's following me basically, that wants to basically be in this network. So I created this community, and it was on this app called Telegram, and it's a big group chat. And at first there was like 200 and something people in this chat, and it got like really annoying, and like a bunch of people left and like didn't want to be in it anymore because there were so many conversations going on. But it was really cool because there's 200 Arizona models, photographers, hairstylists. They were all in this group chat, and people would be like, hey guys, like, I had a model cancel on me, any models free today? And then some models would be like, oh yeah, I can do it. Like, and I was like, that's fucking cool. That's what I wanted. And then, but the main reason why I created that group chat was so when I had an event, I could just post in that group chat, and like everybody would get the message, because it's kind of like a text message. So rather than having to see it on your story, you would just get like an actual notification from Telegram that said, hey, like, Sapphire just posted this flyer or whatever. So when I started doing that, I started seeing better results for my meetups, because I had a community behind it. And inside the group chat, I would say, hey, everybody who posts this flyer, like I'll feature you on the Creator Click or something like that.
I've seen that the community comes into play because I'm not sure if you are always like, dang, this would really be easy if you have a community, because you also talked about making courses using like photos as like an example.
Yeah.
So is that kind of more of like you're able to give back to the community and make it more your full-time thing? Or?
Well, yeah, so there's a lot of parts of this. So I actually started a Creator Click website. And like my vision with the Creator Click long term was to get to a point where I had people who were better than me at like all these different aspects of the community I'm in. So like we have photographers, we have models, we have makeup artists, we have hairstylists, even like dancers and stuff. They're all kind of part of the same community of creative artists. And I think that like building a community of those people and being able to like get to a point where I have like a makeup artist who's going to do a makeup tutorial. I don't know shit about makeup, but like I can have this makeup artist who's part of the Creator Click, and she can do a makeup tutorial, and they can go on like my Creator Click YouTube page, and then I can have like a dancer do like a dancing tutorial, and then I can have like you know, a hairstylist, you know, show how to do hair. So like long term, that's where I want to go with the Creator Click. But I realized in the beginning that that takes time. You need to build a certain level of trust. You need to build a certain level of community. So I was like, how can I just provide value to these people and build the community, and then like later on I can worry about how maybe I'm going to sell something to them. But the most important part was to kind of build some kind of foundation where everybody kind of felt connected. So like I started focusing on that, and then I created a blog, thecreatorclick.com, and I started writing articles about like, you know, 5 ways to up your photography, you know, how to be taken more serious as a model, how to do this, how to do that, 40 places, or not 40, like 10 places to shoot in Phoenix, Arizona.
That's a cute one.
You know, so like I started doing blog posts like that, and it started getting some traction, and I was able to just post the blog post like into my Telegram group. So like my group chat I created with 200 something people, I'd be like, hey guys, I posted a new blog, check it out. And then like I would get all these people who are just directly in the group to go read it. And then like I just got overwhelmed with all the other stuff I was doing, and I haven't really wrote a blog post for Creator Click in a while. But I still have the website. I still pay for the website to be there. I also started building an email list on that site, and I probably have like 100 subscribers, and I don't really send them anything yet. But it's all part of building up and creating value for people, because I know that long term I'm going to be able to send them something that's even more valuable. Or when I do start selling courses, yeah, I'm going to tell those people first. So yeah, I think like initially, like the reason why I was able to build the community up the way I have been is because I'm just trying to build value and create value for people. Because that's what happened to me in the beginning of my photography. I've actually had people tell me like, yo man, I met somebody in your group and we got published in a magazine together. I'm like, that's dope. Like I made that happen. Not really like me, but like, you know what I mean? I helped facilitate that. So like that is like the most rewarding part for me. And I think me being able to possibly sell a course to somebody in the future or something, that's a plus. But the more rewarding part is really like making a difference for these people. All these photographers who like don't have the confidence to ask a model to shoot can come to my event, and there's like already 15 models there, and then they just have to walk up to them and ask, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, I feel like you also learn how to like, I don't know, it's just like you need to be a model. Like look at that jawline. Like, yeah. You start like identifying models.
Yeah, you know, actually there's been a couple people who would reach out to me on Instagram and be like, hey, like I really like your work, would you like to shoot? And then I got to a point where I was like really, really busy with paid gigs. And I still do some free stuff, but like I'm very selective about it. Mm-hmm. So when a model would hit me up like that, I'd say, hey, like on April 20th, I'm doing this like photo meetup. You should come.
Okay,
you know?
So that's where you kind of plug in and can get her into it.
Yeah, so it's kind of cool because there's like 3 or 4 people during the month who might hit me up and want like a free shoot. And I can just say, hey, come to this event. And not only do they get to shoot with me there, but they might even meet like 5 other photographers, and now they have all these different photos from all these different photographers, and then they end up setting up a shoot with this photographer they met there, and they do something completely different, you know what I mean? So, it's been great, man.
What do you kind of cap it off? I mean, what would you say to that person that wants to get in, that's just starting photography or just starting modeling? What would you say to them? What's your advice?
My advice would be, first of all, to like not be so hard on yourself. Like when I started, I always looked at like the Instagram Explore page, and I was like, damn, these photos are so good. Like
they're so nice.
You know what I mean? And you know the colors are popping and stuff. And like a lot of those photographers have been doing this for 10 years, 15 years. They have really nice. I mean, they're professionals. A lot of them have really nice equipment as well. And it's like, even if you took the same exact photos, same exact lighting with their equipment and your equipment, it just wouldn't look the same. You know what I mean? And that's just a bold fact. Like that's just how it is. So I think a big part of progressing for me and growing was like letting go of this need to like compare myself to these people constantly. So I just for a while stopped looking at the Explore page. And then I dove deeper into my own work and I looked at my old pictures and I was like, where are these old photos that I've already taken that I'm impressed by? And I started seeing a lot of them. And it's like I started looking at myself more, and then I started realizing that like I have my own style, I have my own way. There's people that hit me up to shoot, and that it's like I still, if you look at my page, I don't think anybody can like look at one of my photos and say Sapphire definitely took this photo. And the reason why is because I don't have like a certain aesthetic where all my photos look the same. I'm kind of like wild and all over the place. But that is my style. And like I think a lot of people get caught up in that too. They feel like, oh, my page needs to look all blue, or I need to have like 3 matching photos on every row.
I've had that happen where like I take a photo and then like they slapped a filter on it, and I'm just like, that's really... It irritated me more than I thought it would.
Yeah.
Because I'm just like, they're like, oh, I wanted to make it match the rest of my my profile grid. And I'm like, well...
Yeah, and you're going to run into that. That usually happens more with people who don't understand the industry. So, like, it's really important to be upfront with people about that stuff.
Yeah.
I had that happen several times with me where somebody was slapped. It's like I took 30 minutes to edit this photo, and then they just slap an Instagram filter on it, and it's like a slap in the face sort of.
Yeah.
But they don't... I don't think the person's ever trying to disrespect you. They're just like, oh, I want this photo to like look this way. Oh, I want it to look a little faded. They don't think about the fact that you already spent all this time in Photoshop and Lightroom and color corrected and changed the contrast and shit. They just, you know what I mean? So
I think of the fact that it looks like it's taken on an iPhone 4. Because the quality already goes down because of IG, and the quality's going down again, and
because of the filter.
Yeah, so it's like, this is horrible.
Yeah, so I mean, and that actually gets into like, you know, getting more professional involves like paperwork and like getting contracts and stuff, where you can just have models sign like a model release, and you write those stipulations in there, like you will not, even if you're doing a free shoot, you can have a model sign a release form that says like, basically, I can use these photos in any way I want because I'm the owner, and you're giving me permission to do that. And then you can write another clause that says like, you will not alter my photos in any way and then post them on social media without my permission. Mm-hmm. Where I've had models hit me up and actually ask me like, is it okay if I edit this? And I'm like, sure, go ahead. You know, not that I'm gonna like it. Sometimes I'll be like, you can edit it. You don't have to tag me. Like, do what you want.
I just won't repost it because I don't want my name on that.
Yeah, exactly. So like, I don't want a model to edit a photo and then tag me in it. I'm like, that's not my work. But if you ask me respectfully, without like just going behind my back and trying to be sneaky about it, then like I'll give you permission sometime. So if you're in Arizona and you want to get more involved in like a creative community, check out the description for a link to the Creator Click. Send me a message and I can invite you into our group chat, and I'll also be able to notify you about the upcoming events. It's a great way to network in the community out here, and the meetups are themed usually. So one of the last ones we did was called the Floral Fling, and we did like all flowers and stuff. So you guys come out, it's gonna be fun, and thank you so much, Jeffrey, for having me on this. I love what you're doing here, and like just keep it rocking, man.
Fade to black.